Hey fabulous friends, I'm Scarlett Sparks, designer of Palm Patterns, and today we're going to look at applying the fold-over elastic to the Classic Palm Gauntlet. If you don't already have your pattern, go check it out over on palmpatterns.com, where you can also find the accompanying blog post. Let's get started. So you can see there's a point at the tip of our gauntlet, and I'm gonna trim my fold over elastic to match, and then just do it on one side and then fold it over and match it so I get a nice point before I start sewing. We're gonna end up stitching over this raw edge, so you don't need to worry about finishing it because it won't be exposed to fray or anything. Gonna line everything up, and I've got the wrong side of my elastic against the wrong side of my gauntlet, so the right side is going to be facing me. Even though I have the glove inside out, it's going to look a bit funny, but I find it easier to sew with the loop on top rather than trying to go around my free arm. So see this line, we want to make sure that we get it lined up against there. Select a nice zigzag. I think I'm just going to use a medium regular zigzag. 3 wide and 2 long on my machine. Just drop a couple of stitches, and I'm coming right over the raw edge, but being careful not to go over onto the right hand side of the fold over elastic. So I want to make sure that I'm still staying to the left of this little indentation. Once I've got it started, then I can start putting a little bit of tension onto the elastic, and I don't really want to stretch it out. That'll fatigue the elastic really quickly. And it could also cause some gathers and puckers that I don't want in my final gauntlet. But you can see that this fabric that we're using for the gauntlet is also very stretchy. And if I don't put a little bit of tension on this fold over elastic, then often what'll happen is my fabric will stretch more than the elastic does, and you'll end up with ripples, and it's really hard to correct. It's really unattractive. So I just want to make sure that my elastic is under a little bit more tension than my fabric, and that will help eliminate some of those ripples. And how much you need to use will vary a little bit depending on your elastic and how firm it is, and your fabric and how much it stretches. But I do also find that where this part is really curvy, it also helps to have the tension on there to help the elastic conform to the curve a little bit better. And then I just keep moving my little loop around as I go. So I do want to make sure that this extra little leafy bit of my applique is kind of tucked out of the way. It just takes a little bit of practice. Sew really slowly, and that'll help a lot. Like, feel free to stop and start, and for this one especially, if you're nervous about it the first few times, don't use the 3-step zigzag if you're still getting the hang of how to apply the elastic in the first place, because it's much harder to pick out if you made a mistake and you wanted to go back and correct it. So I've done my first pass, and I'm going to come on up. Pass. So the second pass of the elastic is a little easier. A lot of the stretching and all that business is done for you already by your past self. I'm actually going to start maybe like a centimeter down, just so I'm clearing the end of the elastic, because if I don't get it lined up correctly, it can be kind of hard to get a nice point. So I'm going to just move a little bit further past that and start my stitching after I'm already off of that elastic, so that I'm sewing almost off of the left hand edge with my zigzag of the fold over elastic, so I make sure everything is nice and caught in there, and I'm not going to have a little ridge that can flip up and be annoying or get caught on things. You don't need to stretch this at all as you're sewing. The zigzag will make sure that it stays stretchy. And before I come around here, I just want to make sure that I've got all these little threads out of the way. It's easier to trim them up now. Get the raw edge of the original point all tucked in there. Double check as I'm coming over that section to make sure that everything is in a nice point. And then I'm just going to keep on sewing over this folded elastic for like a good couple inches more, to like a little bit more than you think you need for your finger loop. Just keep it nice and secure. And then, so I've got all this extra and a really nice clean elastic application. So as you can see, it conforms nicely to this curve around the bottom. It can still stretch out to go around the hand, and there's no like wavy rippling action from an overstretched fabric. So that came out pretty clean. We're gonna make this almost little infinity shape and bring the tail around to the back. Cram it all under the machine, and then we're just gonna throw another centimeter or so. Sorry, I'm totally mixing my imperial and metric measurements. And I'm just gonna do a couple of passes. So I went about a centimeter or a half an inch-ish down, and then I just back tacked backwards to come back up. And I kind of like doing that when I'm doing these short little tacks, because then all of my threads can get trimmed at once instead of having to trim in two places. But once I am happy with how everything lines up, I can trim away this excess. You could throw a little dab of glue or fray check, just a little bit of something to stop those little fuzzy ends from fraying off as you wear it.
And we're all done. The gauntlets look fabulous. For more tips and tutorials, don't forget to look me up on palmpatterns.com. See you next time.